Hello everyone, you're watching PC Helper and welcome to another video in the Python 3.9 tutorial series. If by the end of this video you feel like you have learned something today, then please leave a like and also don't forget to subscribe to PC Helper for regular content. So we've already talked about functions, arguments in a function, default functions, keyword functions, and a bit more about functions. We've already talked about it in the past 4 videos. And in this video, there is a very cool concept we'll be talking about, that is flexible arguments. So till now we have studied that while defining a function, we have to specify the number of arguments your function can take. But if I tell you that you do not have to specify how many arguments your function can take and it can be flexible. So if you'll use flexible arguments, what will happen is, if the user inputs let's say 2 values, then your function will take 2 arguments. And let's say if the user enter 10 inputs, and user give 10 inputs, then the same function will take 10 arguments. Wouldn't it be really cool? So let's try it how it will work. So I'll explain you this concept with the help of 2 examples. The first example would be really simple, and the second example would also be really simple, but it would be a bit more complex than the first one. So first of all, let's make a function. Let's name our function info, and now let's give the number of arguments. So I've already told you that in this video we'll be using flexible arguments. So to define a flexible argument, you have to just write this asterisk sign, or you can say a star, and then you can give the name to your argument. So you can give it any name. You can give it the name game, ABCD, but I will give it the name, conventional name args. So most of the Python programmer prefer to give their flexible argument the name args. So I will give it the name args too, but you can give it any name. And now in this function, what this function will do, it will just simply print args. So that's it. So now when you'll call this function, it will simply print whatever the value of the argument is. So let's call our function info and let's give an input. So I will first of all give the input 55, and now let's execute this program. I executed this program and 55 was printed. Really simple. And now let's say I want to give 2 values to the argument. So let's print 55, 25 and also a string. So let's say PC helper. Now the same function took 3 arguments and the output was 55, 25 and PC helper. So you can just simply give any number of values to your argument. So here let's say game, and let's give another value 88 and another string value the, and now when I'll execute this program, you can see that because of a flexible argument, for the first time when we call this program, we only give three inputs, and the function was flexible. So we got 3 outputs, and the second time we got 5 outputs because our arguments were flexible. So this is how this concept of flexible argument works. So now let's take another example which might be a bit more useful than this one. So in this one we'll make a function for a calculator. Not for a calculator, we'll just be doing addition, but let's take example of a calculator where if you want to add 2 numbers, you can add 2 numbers at a time, but if you want to add 10 numbers, then you can add 10 numbers at a time also. So to make a program for that, we have to use flexible arguments. So let's name our function add, and now let's give argument as star args. Let's define our function, and now let's name a variable named total, and the initial value of total would be 0 because initially there are no inputs by the users. But then we will start a for loop for I in args, and now for I in args. And now what we will be doing is total is equals to total plus I, or in short form we can write total plus equal I. So what it will do is initially total would be equal to 0, but then when for loop will run, the value of I would be equal to the value of arguments, and one by one in the total value, the value of arguments would be added, and finally when the loop is completed, we will print total. As simple as that. So now let's call this function. So simply write add, and first time let's give no arguments here. So now when I will execute this program for the first time, 0 is printed because for the first time when there is no argument, total is equals to 0. Now let's start adding values here. So first of all, let's say we have to add 55 and 55. So now I will execute the program and the output is 110 because 55 plus 55 is 110. Now let's say 4 values. 44, not 10, 20, 30, and let's say 40. And now when I will execute this program, the output is 100. So this is how flexible arguments come handy. So it is really simple. While defining a function, you do not have to tell that how many arguments your function can take, but it would totally depend on the user that how many input the user wants to give. But in this case, you can see that we did not take input from the user. We ourselves were giving the number of arguments we wanted, but what if we want to take inputs from user? That is a really important case and it gets a bit more complicated because we'll be taking user input as a list and then we'll be unpacking that list as an argument. So in the next video we'll be talking about that only. I'm not including in this video because it would make the video too long, and what I want you to do is go through this video once again, go through this concept once again and practice it by yourself, and then go to the next video and then we'll be talking about that important concept, that how to take user input as a list and that then unpack that list as an argument. So I hope you like this video. If you have any doubt, write in the comment section and I'll see you guys in the next one.